This is a story all about how my life got twisted upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, so sit right there and I'll tell you how I got fired at 50 years old.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Senior Sparkle. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new here, I am Trisha. Welcome. So let's talk about what happened and the aftermath that followed. After getting married and living in Maui, we decided to transition back to the mainland, and I was able to get a teaching job. So that was great. I was able to transition and get this teaching job. It was about 30 minutes away, and it wasn't the best drive. The drive was pretty treacherous. It was a mountainous drive, and there was tons of rain. There was fires at times, and there was snow. And you know, those Californians, me included, do not know how to drive in snow. Oh my goodness. But that's besides the point. I was so thankful to have a job. And be able to transition back to the mainland. Such a blessing. Now, just a little backstory for those of you that do not know, teachers get a 2-year probation period. 2 years, okay? And what that means, kind of like most companies give you a 30, 60, and 90-day probation where they can let you go with absolutely giving you no reason, no excuses. They don't like you. They don't like the color of your hair. They just let you go. Teachers have to go through 2 years of this. So I knew that going in that I was on a 2-year probation. Okay, I'm a good teacher. I wasn't real concerned about it. I went to work daily. I was teaching the kids. Everything was going great. It was a beautiful campus. It was a newer campus. I was evaluated in November, I think it was, by the principal, and he came and sat through one of my classes. And he gave me a rave review. I mean, it was just a glowing review. Everything was perfect. I thought, this is awesome. I'm really liking my new job, minus the treacherous drive. But being at work all day, it was wonderful. It was beautiful over there. I absolutely loved it. Then in January, I got my second evaluation for the year. And the principal again came in and sat the whole period. He gave me a glowing review. He loved how engaged the students were and the interactions, and he could see all the learning that the students were doing. And he was so pleased. He had nothing but praise for me for that next evaluation that was in January. Things are really looking good. I was feeling proud of myself. I was very happy. Wonderful. Then at the end of February, I get called into the principal's office after school. Hey, for a meeting. And I actually thought it was a good thing. I was so excited because I am Avid certified and I'm trained, and there's a position. It was open for a coordinator position. I thought, they're gonna actually offer me the coordinator position. Yay! That's what I'm thinking. So I go down to the principal's office. He doesn't look up from his desk. He's looking down. Hi. He never, ever looks up. He's looking down, and I didn't think much of it at first until he started talking, and he still never looked up. He never, ever looked up. He let me know that I was going to be non-reelected. What that means, for those of you that aren't familiar with teaching, non-reelected is being fired. I was being fired.
You're fired.
And of course, your first response is to ask why. And I said, why? Can you tell me why? He says, I don't have to give you a reason. And he's right. He doesn't have to give me a reason. And I was like, but, what about January's evaluation? You saw my class and you said it was wonderful. And he said, you're non-reelected. That's all they would tell me. No reason, no nothing. Absolutely nothing. I got up and walked out of that meeting in total shock. Drove through that treacherous pass, heading back home. Stunned. How could this happen 2 weeks before my 50th birthday?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to me. Oh my goodness. I have never in my whole entire life been fired, let alone pushing 50. No, let alone with good evaluations and fired. It made no sense to me. So I came home and I did what every 50-year-old woman would do when they got home after being fired. I cried. I cried and cried and cried. I didn't know what to do. I just kept crying. I went to bed. I cried all night. And then in the morning, I got up and I had to, that's the other thing for teachers. Even though you're fired and you know you no longer have a job and you're not wanted there anymore, you have to finish out your contract. This meant that I had to keep working until June. So this is the end of February. 4 months. I had to keep working for 4 more months and put a smile on my face and act like everything was wonderful. So I did that. I did that for the students, and I went back in the next day, put a smile on my face. I taught my class just like I always do, and everything was wonderful. And then I decided I was going to march myself into that principal's office and ask him for a letter of recommendation. How could he say no? He's given me all these wonderful reviews. He had nothing bad to say about me, so it didn't make sense. Why didn't he write something bad in January if he was going to fire me in February? It made no sense. So I walked into the principal's office. This time he finally made a little eye contact. He did get a little teary, and I asked him, "Can you write me a letter of recommendation?" And he said he could not, because that wouldn't look right, because he had just fired me, right? But he assured me that if anybody called for a reference, he would give me a glowing recommendation, because he had nothing bad to say about me. Makes no sense, but that's what it was. That's exactly what he told me. I said, okay, what's a girl to do, right? Later, I found out that this is kind of standard for that district. They hire a lot of new people every single year, and every single year they let go of a lot of new people. It's like a constant revolving door over there. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I began to look for another job. What options did I have, right? It was so humbling, because having never been fired in your whole entire life, here you are 50 years old, going on these interviews and job fairs and all these things with all these young people straight out of college. And you're like, wow, here I am. So after going on numerous interviews and job fairs and doing all the things, I am never going to get hired. I felt old. I was 50 years old and I was fired. Who's going to hire someone who's old and fired? I had 2 strikes against me. I felt like everything's against me. And then I finally got called back after several months. I got called back for a second interview. Okay, hopefully this works. And it did. I got hired into a teaching position, much better drive, only 17 minutes down the freeway, at a school that actually I wanted to go to when I came back initially from the Maui to the mainland. But that school wouldn't do phone interviews, and they only wanted in-person interviews. Now remember, back before the pandemic, they didn't really do phone and Zoom interviews. Now it's probably more common, but back then, they didn't do those kind of things. So ultimately, and the school up in the mountains actually was the one who gave me a chance and did a phone interview. Or so I thought they gave me a chance. It was just part of their big scheme, their big plan, their big master plan. They knew they weren't keeping me. They didn't care. That's why they did the phone interview. Looking back, I think I can see that. But now I'm at a school that I enjoy. The drive is much better, 17 little minutes down the freeway. So even though I was fired, this whole thing, looking back, hindsight is 2020, was a total blessing, because getting hired by that school and getting fired allowed me actually ultimately to get to a position, to a school that I really wanted to be at. Of course, in the moment, it was difficult to stay positive and to keep trusting, and I would cry and trust and cry and I trust, right? But it ultimately worked out. What blessings have you realized after the fact? Have you ever been fired like me? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let your age be the fuel that drives you. Keep shining bright at any age. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.